I never had a close relationship with Sarah, my older half-sister. She was born out of my dad's earlier marriage, so by the time I was in the picture, she was a teenager already. We didn't argue or fight, we simply just never spent time together. I was starting kindergarten when she moved out, and she wasn't really thrilled with having a younger brother. I barely saw her as I got older, meeting only occasionally during the holiday get-togethers or once in the blue moon visits, but we were on good terms. So, when the cops called a few days ago to let us know that they found her body, I was devastated. Some neighbors apparently called 911 when they heard screams and smoke coming out of her house. After the firefighters put out the fire in the basement, they found some charred remains that they assumed were hers. They couldn't identify her because of the body's given state, but all the evidence pointed towards an accident. She didn't have a husband or kids, so the duty of burying her fell on us. The funeral is what you'd expect under such circumstances. Lots of crying and mourning around the closed casket, but the deed was done. I was left an only child, and a few days later we took to scoring her house and doing an inventory of her belongings. It was an all-around unpleasant experience on so many levels. It felt so wrong to just go through things like that, but with her only living relatives being me and my dad, we inherited her house and all of her possessions. We decided we didn't want them, so we'd sell almost everything. The plan was to keep some of Sarah's stuff as mementos, things like pictures and whatnot. I went along with Dad to help. We went room by room, cataloging items one by one. Given the small size of the house, it went pretty fast, but we started late into the day, and so we wouldn't be able to finish by nightfall. Hey, one of the detectives wants to drop by later. Says he has some more investigating to do. My dad said as we were getting ready to leave. He said for somebody to just stay the night, but work won't allow me. Can you do it, champ? Sure, Dad. I mumbled, not in the least thrilled about this prospect. Dad had packed a small box of trinkets in his trunk, and off he went home. The only room we hadn't gone into was the basement, and I wasn't about to do it by myself. The wooden door leading into it was wide open, charred by the fire and black with suet. The basement itself was in similar condition, ravaged by the fire and by the firemen's attempts to put it out. It unnerved me to no end, so I dragged a chair out onto the porch and spent the evening there. I smoked half a pack of cigarettes and drank some old beer left behind in the fridge, all while the neighbors regarded me with curiosity. A few of them even approached me, giving me their condolences when they found out I was her younger brother. The detective finally arrived around sundown, pulling onto the street in an old beater car. He looked like your average guy when he stepped out, dressed in a cheap suit and a loose coat hanging on his shoulders. Hello, I am Detective Marcus, he introduced himself. Clancy, nice to meet you, Detective. Likewise. I'd offer you a beer, but I'd assume you can't drink on duty. Might as well, man, Marcus said with a shrug in his shoulders. I'm off the clock and I'll be here all night. That took me by surprise, but who would I be to argue with this man? I fetched him a chair and a beer, so he sat down and lit up a cigarette as well. We had some admittedly awkward small talk, but the subject quickly moved to Sarah and her death. Marcus asked the usual questions. Was she depressed? Did she go out? Or did she just shut in? Did she have any friends or romantic partners he could question? Stuff like that. All perfectly reasonable questions meant to dig up leads. But I was the wrong person to try to answer them. I wasn't particularly close to Sarah, so I didn't know most of the answers for Marcus. Don't worry about it, I get it, he reassured. I don't speak much with my old man, for example. Couldn't tell you his birthday if you put a gun to my head, let alone what he's up to these days. It's just, I never imagined she'd go like this, you know. I'd have made an effort if I knew. Don't beat yourself up over it. What's done is done. It was getting late and darkness settled, so we went inside. I led Marcus to the living room, and he shared some of the case details with me after we made ourselves comfortable. The reason I wanted to stay in this house overnight is, as he spoke, he pulled out his smartphone and browsed some files on it. I'll warn you, they're pretty disturbing. If you want me to stop it at any moment, just say so. He pressed play on the audio file, then laid the phone down on a small table between us. We both leaned in as Sarah's voice resounded on the speakers. I'll do my best to write down what she said from memory, as I don't have access to these recordings. Recording 1. Is this app working? Test. Oh, okay. Well, my name is Sarah. I moved into this house 2 days ago, and I heard some strange noises last night from my basement. I'm kind of paranoid right now, because I do live alone. So I'll leave my phone on to record them, and hopefully find what's up. Recording 2. Some breathing is heard in the background as the phone gets set down. Footsteps walking away from the microphone. Then it's quiet for a long time. Marcus skips through most of the recording, and it is nearly 9 hours long. About 2 hours in, around midnight, the microphone catches a distant crash. Some skittering follows, sounding like a cat running around in the bathroom. It goes on for a few hours, with a long pause between bouts. Hello? A deep voice calls out weakly. What the hell? I let out. Marcus paused the recording and looked at me. Do you want me to stop it? He asked. I contemplated his offer. On one hand, whatever followed had potential to traumatize me for life, but on the other hand, the sheer curiosity would eat me alive if I didn't find out more. So I gave in and told him to let it play. Hello? The voice calls out again, this time sounding more human. Is anyone there? No one answers. The voice falls silent, and the skittering carries its way from the microphone. No more sounds are heard that night. Recording 3. What the hell? What the hell? I knew it. Someone's living in my basement. Recording 4. Okay, I calmed down a bit. I was terrified after I listened to the last recording, so I ran out of the house and called the cops. A squad car came out about half an hour ago. The bastards took their sweet time too, but I showed them that recording. I went back inside, accompanied by the police, and we checked our basement. No one was there. We turned the place inside out. We checked everything, but that room is small, no windows, no exits, and no place for somebody to hide. The cops think that it was an intruder that broke in, but they couldn't find any signs of it. They said they'll patrol the neighborhood at night and keep on a lookout for any suspicious activity. One of them also asked me to keep a recording just in case. Recording 5. Okay, here goes. I'll leave the phone out tonight as well. The cop car just passed on the street, so I feel a little bit safer. The sound of the phone being placed down is heard, and Sarah's footsteps follow. She leaves, and the recording is silent for a little bit. A few hours to be exact. Marcus skips ahead through it until another distant crash is caught. The skittering returns, stopping a few feet away from the microphone. Hello, the voice calls out. Is anyone there? It sounds more feminine than last time. Still inhuman, sort of like an artificial generated voice, but verging on crossing the uncanny valley into natural sounding territory. It calls out a few more times over the span of a few hours, sounding more and more like a woman. When it becomes apparent that no one will answer its calls, the voice stops. The skittering takes it away from the microphone, and the rest of the recording is silent. This is getting all kinds of freaky, I mumbled. I know, Marcus admitted. Never seen anything like it before. Do you recognize the voice by chance? No clue, I admitted. It doesn't sound familiar. I was afraid that would be the case, Marcus said with a sigh. Sarah confirms a possible identity to the voice in a later recording, but I wanted to double check. Then maybe show it to my dad. I provided a solution. He was closer to Sarah than me. He might have an idea. Marcus fell silent for a moment. He joins his hands beneath his chin and leans forward, propping his elbows onto the table. The look in his eyes turned grim and worried. I'm sorry, Sonny, he said out of the blue, for all you've heard so far, and for all that's about to follow. But I'm glad it's not your father that decided to stay. These recordings might just break him. What? I asked, dumbfounded. What's that supposed to mean? It will all make sense to you. Just keep listening, Marcus answered. The change in his demeanor was strange, and the night took an unnerving turn. I should have backed out. I should have kicked him out. I should have done a lot of things differently. But my curiosity mounted to the levels beyond of my ability to rein in. So I proceeded to listen further. Recording 6. What the hell? That was Mom! Sarah cries into the microphone for a few minutes before the recording ends. Recording 7. I'm not gonna call the cops anymore. That was Mom calling out. I want to talk to her. She's been gone for so long. Recording 8. Okay. I've calmed down a bit. I hope. I'll wait here tonight. The recording is silent for a long time. It turns off abruptly about half an hour later. Do you know anything about Sarah's mother? Marcus asked me. I jumped back in my chair, just suddenly interjecting, completely absorbed by my thoughts. Not really, I admitted. She died before I was born. It was why my dad remarried. Marcus gave me a thoughtful nod, and he played the next recording. Recording 9. It's back. I'll start another recording. The scurrying returns. Sarah's breath is audible in the background, and it gets faster as the sound approaches her. A chair creaks, presumably as she gets up, and her footsteps join the skittering in the background. Hello. The same woman's voice from the previous recording calls out. Who are you? Who are you? The voice repeats. Mom. Sarah cries out. Mom. The voice repeats. Who the hell are you? How do you have my mother's voice? Who are you? The voice repeats. Footsteps resound again, approaching the voice as it says the same line over and over. Answer me, Sarah demands. Knocking is heard, as if someone's bashing on the door with their fist. Answer me, the voice coos. What do you want? The voice lets out a few garbled words, but they are unintelligible. Its pitch and intonation adjust before it speaks again. Sarah, dear, is that you? I was left stupefied. The uncanny valley was finally crossed, and the voice sounded decidedly human for the first time. It held none of the animalistic traits from before. The subtle anger and malice, and it was gone, placed by a deep sense of compassion and worry. I haven't seen you in so long, the voice continued. Sarah weeps silently in the background, but she doesn't answer the voice again. It, however, keeps calling out. I've missed you, dear. Footsteps sound out as Sarah backs away, and the voice grows distant. It calls out over and over again, but the facade cracks. It can't maintain its grasp on the charade for long, and it develops back into the uncanny valley slowly. The footsteps pick up speed until it turns into a run. After a few seconds, the voice becomes inaudible. The door is open and closed shut with force, and Sarah starts crying uncontrollably. The recording stops. The recordings are time-stamped, Marcus says. After this one ended, Sarah didn't make another one for a few days. Considering what I heard, I didn't know how to answer. I kept silent, mulling over my thoughts and feelings on this matter. As intrigued as the situation was, I mostly felt horrified and sorry for Sarah. I couldn't even begin to imagine what must have gone through her head after living through that. Why are you showing me all this? I asked Marcus after a while. If you really are a detective and part of that police force, you'd lock this stuff up away behind like 10 locks and keys. Marcus leaned back in his own chair, thinking my question over. He pulled out his crumpled up pack of cigarettes and retrieved one from it. I pushed the ashtray closer to his side, and he lit up. He bellowed out a cloud of white smoke. All in due time, he answered. His eyes scanned me in a fashion completely different from before, with a cold and calculated look behind them. What do you think so far? I don't know. I don't know what the hell is going on. Answer me, Clancy, and be honest, he demanded. Whether or not I'll show you more depends on it. I racked my brain, but I was truly, utterly stumbled. The situation developed too fast for me to keep up, and I didn't know what to think anymore, but I could tell that that wasn't the answer Marcus wanted. I don't know. A ghost? A demon? Skinwalker? I started blaring out yes. Marcus seemed surprised by that. He pushed his cigarette away from his face, letting out another lungful of smoke. And do you believe that? He asked bluntly. That it could be something supernatural. What the fuck else could it be? I answered his question with another. What do you think this is? What I think is irrelevant. I want to know what you truly believe. That's what I believe, I answered. I didn't know Sarah well, but she wouldn't fake something like this. So either she was haunted by something, or you're just messing with me. That's the correct answer, Marcus said, with a satisfied smirk. He put out his cigarette in the ashtray and leaned over to the phone, placing his finger on the screen. So how about it? Do you want to hear more? Why would I want that? Do you or do you not, Clancy? No hard feelings either way. I can't force you to listen. Yeah. Start the next one. I don't know for sure why I decided that. We could sit all day while I blame curiosity or more like stupidity. But those answers would be half-truths at best. It didn't feel like a want at the time. It felt like a need. I needed to go through with it. I needed to hear all of it. The reason I felt that way didn't matter at the moment. I have a good feeling about you, kid, Marcus mumbled as his fingers tapped on his screen and started the next recording. Recording 10. I don't know what to do anymore. It's driving me nuts. Whoever's messing with me comes back every night. I hear them even now. The microphone picks up footsteps, and a door creaks open slowly. Faint mumbling comes from the distance, accompanied by the familiar skittering. It pauses for a brief moment before it speaks up. Sarah, my dear, the voice calls out, not entirely human. Please, digest. The door closes shut, and a loud thud. Sarah retreats back into the room. I tried a lot of different things over these past few days. It calls from the basement. So I got locks and I put them on the door. They're untouched, so whoever it is isn't coming from outside of the house. It hides in there somewhere. I called the cops again while this thing was there, but it left when the cops arrived. The two officers asked me to unlock the door, and they checked the basement again. But lo and behold, it was empty, like last time. I'm not sure what they think of me. Maybe they suspect that I'm just fucking with them, so I can't really rely on their help. I even told Amy about the thing that I showed her in the recordings, so she slept over yesterday. The thing somehow knew I wasn't alone, because it didn't make a beep the entire night. I'm not sure if Amy believes me or not anymore. Hell, I wouldn't even believe me either if I were her. But she offered a solution. Get a roommate or a boyfriend. Someone to live with me. It could work, but I don't know anymore. Do you know this, Amy? Marcus asked as the recording ended. I think Sarah mentioned her a few times, but I've never met her. I looked over my shoulder as I answered, at the corridor leading to the kitchen. The basement door was one of the walls there, and I could see the locks mentioned in the recording. They hung open on the door, but they still were intact. Marcus snapped his fingers to get my clearly distracted attention. Then he pointed down at the phone. You want to keep going? He asked once more. Yeah. Before I hit play, I want to ask you something again. Did you by any chance suffer any mental trauma as a kid or even recently? Something that shook you to the core? I raised my eyebrow at this strange question. No, why? You're taking all this surprisingly well. Your mental fortitude is pretty high, Marcus answered. That's sometimes a sign of... Never mind. He had played before I could even pry it out of him, so I fell silent to not miss it. But I made up my mind. When it was over, Marcus would have a lot of answering to do. Recording 11. I've tried my best to ignore it. I slept at a friend's house some nights, and that's getting harder to pull off. I tried looking for roommates, but no one wants to share a small house with a stupid pandemic around, and my search for a boyfriend is just as fruitless. I'm getting a bit old for the dating scene. I'll keep at it, but from the looks of things, everyone's mostly down to just fuck, and not much else. I don't want to resort to frequent one-night stands. The police still answer my calls, thankfully. But they're not doing such. Even their patrols are getting less and less frequent. I'm at a total loss here. I've considered selling the house and just moving, but I can't afford that. Dad might be my last resort. Maybe I can move in with him, and his wife and son. We're not exactly friends though, so who knows? And I can't risk telling them. There's no chance in hell they'll take me in if they think that I'm crazy. Hearing that, hearing her opinion on me and Mom, it stung. Sure, we weren't most of the acquaintances, but we're not horrible people. We would have taken Sarah in if she would have just reached out to us. So to know that just her salvation was so close, kept at bay only by superficial assessments of us, it sucked. Plain and simple. And if she would have shown us these recordings, we might have believed her, especially Dad. Play the next one, I demanded Marcus, before he even had a chance to say anything. You sure? You sound a bit riled up. Maybe play it. Marcus sighed deeply, but he did what he was told. Recording 12. It's still here. It won't go the fuck away. I haven't talked to it in almost a month now, but it's still here. It's going to drive me insane for real. I can't take it anymore. I'll confront it again tonight. Maybe I can find out what the fuck this thing wants, or maybe just get some answers. Recording 13. The recording starts, and it is quite safe for the static for a few moments. Sarah takes a deep breath, and a barely audible step. Are you there? The skittering returns, coming closer to the microphone than ever before. It sounded more frantic than usual. Of course, my dear, the voice says sweetly. I'm always here. You stop that, you hear me? Stop using her voice. Sarah, I said stop it. I know you're not her. The voice coughs loudly. It changes as it does, slowly morphing and growling. When it stops, it sounds male. Sarah, honey. I paused hearing that. It was my dad's voice, no doubt about it. although it sounded ever slightly off. I could recognize it. Up to that point, my running theory was that this thing could mimic the death, but Dad is still very much alive. So that threw my theory under the bus. I didn't know what to believe anymore. "What do you want?" "I just want to see you. Open the door." Sarah backs away as her breathing grows faster. "Please, honey," the voice begs. "It's dark down here. Shut up." Sarah runs away from the door as the voice calls continue in the background. "That was your father, correct?" Marcus asked when the recording ended. Yeah. And what does that tell us? I pondered that question for a moment. It's not a skinwalker, like I thought at first. I don't know about them, but like skinwalkers, they need to kill their victims to copy them, right? Not necessarily, Marcus replied. But they do need to hear voices that they're trying to copy. And anyways, a skinwalker could have broken down that door. So, it's something else, I deduced. But what? I'm not sure yet. He went to play the next recording, but I stopped him. Where do you know so much about skinwalkers from? Marcus chuckled. All in due time, Clancy. We still have a few recordings to go through. He hit play on the next recording, so we listened. Recording 14. It's not just Mom and Dad anymore. The damn thing has so many voices now. Amy, my ex-boyfriend Clint. Random voices I can't place. Hell, it even used to sound like one of those 2 police officers that went down in the basement looking for it. It keeps calling for me, pleading and begging, just confusion, asking to be let out. But I won't do it. I won't open that damn door ever again. Fuck whatever I keep down there. It can have my stuff for all I care. I'm tired. I can't sleep because of it. It's getting so hard to do anything. I swear. Today I almost got fired for mixing up customers' orders for the 20th time. I nearly snapped at the manager, but I stopped at the last second and apologized. Some coworkers noticed I'm acting off and asked me about it, but I can't tell them. They'll think I'm crazy. Hell, I'm starting to think I might be crazy myself. Recording 15. Sis. That's as far as I got into the particular recording. I slapped my hand over the phone with enough force to send cracks into the glass. Marcus jumped back in his chair, taken by surprise. What the hell? I let out. That's my fucking voice. I knew this one would get to you, Marcus answered with a half grin. Or, well, get to you more than any of the others. I never visited Sarah here, I stressed. It couldn't have heard my voice. So how the fuck did it copy me? Think, Clancy. Did it ever hear Sarah's dead mother? Marcus answered my question with another. For how long she had been dead? 20 years, I said as I finally understood. So what does that tell you? It doesn't need to hear people's voices? Correct, Marcus said, satisfied by his own breakthrough. So what? It can read minds? Maybe, Marcus said, scratching his chin. At the very least, it can form a connection with people. But until we catch it and see ourselves, I can't say for certain. Catch it? I echoed his words. Is that what this is all about? You want to catch it? Marcus wiped his smirk off of his face and looked at me intently. Yes, Clancy. Either catch it or kill it and solve your sister's case. So what are you? But Marcus didn't let me finish. He pushed my hands away from his phone screen and he hit play on the recording, interrupting me. All in due time, he repeated once more. Sis, are you there? There were repeats in my voice. It's been some time since Sarah's first recording of these mysterious voices, and it sounds thoroughly human at this point. No more cracks in his facade.
Listen to me, and listen well. I won't put up with this anymore. You have tonight to leave my house, and leave me the fuck alone. I'll go to bed. I'll plug in some earphones, and I'll ignore you. If I hear you again tomorrow night, you can bet your ass I will come down there, and I will end you. Whoever or whatever you are. Understood?
She sounds different somehow. Worried, tired, manic.
Please, sis. For fuck's sake, open the door and let me out. And why would I do that? How do you get down there anyway? Fuck, I don't know. I can't remember. But it's scary down here. Let me out, please.
It copies your mannerisms well. It's spot on, actually. Marcus interrupted. It does. I admitted, feeling the color in my face draining a little. Given enough time to learn, that thing could be the top predator. And let me guess, you can't let that happen. We can't let that happen, Marcus corrected. All in due time, I replied, and I pushed the play on the recording. Sarah doesn't say anything else. Her footsteps carry her away from the basement door, and the voice pleads in the background. It shifts back and forth between different people, quick and almost seamless. For short periods of time between the adjustments, glimpses of animalistic nature make it through. The recording ends after Sarah closes the door to her bedroom. Recording 16.
Okay, so I can't get a firearm. I don't have the money for that. And I don't even know how to handle one anyway. And fuck me. Gasoline's getting pretty expensive too. But I could afford a canister worth. Maybe a few gallons and a box of matches. The current plan is simple. I'll fuck that thing up if I hear it again tonight. I'll pour gasoline in the basement through the cracks beneath the door. And I'll light that fucker on fire. Fuck the house. Fuck the authorities. Fuck the repercussions. I can't let it live. I don't care if I end up in prison or in a loony bin or even die here.
My God, Sarah. I mumbled at the recording. Hearing her in this state of mind broke my heart. No one deserves to go through what she did, and the fact that we didn't help her sooner, that none of us made any effort to be in her life, it ate me up inside. We could have made a difference. I could have made a difference. Maybe then this tragedy would have had a better ending. There's only one more thing to go, Marcus said. He leaned over to the table and slapped his hand down on my shoulder, giving me a tight squeeze. I nodded my head as I felt the tears forming in the corners of my eyes and signaled for him to play it. Recording 17.
The fucker is still here. I warned it. I tried to be nice. I really did. What more can anyone ask me for?
A liquid sloshes around in the background, presumably the gasoline. Her breathing is strained and close to the microphone. Metal rings out as it hits the floor.
Sarah?
It calls out in my mother's voice again.
I warned you.
Something tops over on the floor, and the sound of rushing liquid is heard.
This is on you. It's not my fault. Sarah, please.
The voice yells, more desperate than ever.
What are you doing? What I said I would. You didn't listen. Why didn't you listen? Please, Sarah. You don't have to do this. Just let me out, please. Enough. Stop using her fucking voice.
The thing falls silent. Sarah takes a deep breath, and the sound of gasoline pouring out dies down as it presumably runs out. Her clothes rustled as she searches her pockets. She shakes the matches when she finds it. The sound of the matches jumping around inside is the only audible thing for the moment.
You know know what that is, don't you?
She opens the box and fumbles around with the matches for a moment. The voice doesn't answer her, but instead skitters away from the door frantically. Sarah takes one final breath, and the sound of matches being struck is heard loud and clear.
Get fucked.
The microphone doesn't pick up the lit match hitting the ground, but it picks up the gasoline igniting. Air rushes in as the flames begin to burn, and Sarah lets out a yelp. The voice begins to scream loudly, rapidly switching back and forth.
Please.
It let out one final call. For the first time using Sarah's voice, the recording ended, leaving me wrapped in a whirlwind of emotions. I was horrified. I was stupefied. I was strangely glad to hear it finally over. I was a mess, to put it bluntly. My body felt like it melted into the seat, but I finally composed myself when I remembered that Marcus still had some questions to answer. Did Sarah kill it? Did we bury a monster instead of her? I asked in a single breath. I don't know, Marcus answered. It could very well be the case, but then where is she? Exactly. Plus a lot of other things don't line up. But to be fair, they didn't line up no matter what or which angle I went at from. All we know for certain right now is that someone died in that fire. So, monster hunter, huh? I asked after a few moments of a heavy silence. Pretty much, Marcus answered. I'm the one they call when shit gets spooky. And they let me tell you, this shit is fucking spooky. Okay. But all of this still doesn't make any sense and doesn't answer anything. But most importantly, why show me this? Any of this? I asked. Marcus lit up another cigarette and leaned back in his chair. For the first time since he entered the house, he seemed truly comfortable, like he had nothing left to hide. We're always on the lookout for new recruits, so consider tonight your entry test, he admitted. You're a bit rough around the edges, but you seem like a decent candidate to me. Me? A monster hunter? You can't be serious. I shot back in disbelief. Marcus just shrugged his shoulders. You'll never know unless you try it. I sure as shit didn't. Never expected to hunt these things, or any of the things that go bump in the night before I tried. And what if I refuse? I asked. Will you kill me? Or erase my memories or something? At that, Marcus laughed out loud. If you don't want to, you don't want to. Simple as. You can try to tell anyone, but they're not gonna believe you. I frowned, and Marcus caught on that he struck a nerve. He composed himself and got up, taking the phone and stashing it in his pocket. Look, kid, it's like I told you time and time again tonight. I can't force you to do anything, but consider it, okay? As he said that, he pulled out a business card and he tossed it on the table in front of me. The world desperately needs more people like us. If there were more of us to go around, then maybe what happened here would have been stopped sooner. Yeah, it might be too late for your sister, but you could make a difference for someone else. If you make up your mind, doesn't matter if it's tomorrow or a year from now, give me a call and take care. With that, Marcus left. I saw him to the door and closed it behind him. Then I went and crashed in bed. My entire worldview was just shattered tonight, and I decided to get some rest before I tried to make any sense of these pieces. The following days were uneventful, but even so, the strain of that night hung over me. It permeated my thoughts at all times, permanently active in the background as I burrowed deeper and deeper. Dad returned and we finished cleaning the house, and he put it up for sale. But I couldn't focus on that, not when every other thought I had was about that damn recording. In the end, I had to stay over for a little bit longer, despite my constant complaints. because of the slummy neighbor and the sketchy neighbors. Dad didn't want the house to be unoccupied. They're basically asking thieves and punks in, he explained. And it's going to be hard to sell if squatters make nests here. So just hang out for a little bit longer, okay? I wanted to fight him on the matter, to tell him he could stay himself if he was just that worried. But I didn't. I couldn't, not when I knew the truth about what went down. He wouldn't be another death on my conscience, so I lived in the house for another week or so, helping out with renovations and whatnot. And truth be told, it wasn't all that bad. It was a bit creepy, sure, but the freedom of living on my own was oddly pleasant. One evening after he went home, I was left alone. I heard a knock on the door. I slowly made my way over to answer, expecting either him or Marcus. But who I found on the other side of that door left me terrified. It was Sarah. "Hey, Clancy," she greeted, sounding almost casual. "What? How?" I let out in a meek voice as the tears started to flow. I have a lot of explaining to do, I know, but I didn't let her finish. I jumped her, latching my arms around her shoulders as I bawled my eyes out. She put her arms around me as well, and we hugged for minutes in that doorway as I cried. "What happened? Where were you?" I asked when we finally parted. We buried you. We thought you were dead." "I'm sorry," she answered. A lot happened, and I had some problems. I ended up running away to a friend, just for a while, and she sighed. "It's a long story, okay, and very crazy. Tell me about it," I said, rubbing away the tears. "Call Dad and tell him to come over. He needs to know you're okay ASAP. Actually, it would be better for you to do it. I don't want to give him a heart attack." "Good point," I admitted. "We kinda got rid of most of the furniture. But make yourself comfortable. I'll call him and join you." "Don't take long," she said, and went inside to find somewhere to sit. I watched her walk down the corridor towards the kitchen, pausing by the basement door. She looked at it for a long moment, then she continued on her way. I pulled out my phone and Marcus's card, unsure about what to do. The thing's vacate was good, damn near perfect. But as it spoke those last words, its voice cracked, just a little. Thanks for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you do and you want to hear more creepypastas or stuff like this, please like, comment, and if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. I've got a lot more and a lot more coming. I've got some wild stories that are already scheduled to be coming out for the next week or two, maybe. But yeah, make sure to check out the links in the description as well, like Twitter, Instagram, everything like that is in there as well, including my Gmail if you would like to submit a story. Maybe you are an author or like to write creepy stories or creepypastas, stuff like that. If you do and you would like to hear your stuff read, make sure to check out the Gmail. But with that being said, stay safe, stay scary, and I'll see you in the next one.